everyone, it's Deja from CrochetEverAfter.com, and right now what I'm going to show you is how to increase in single crochet when you're working in rows. So if you're a beginner and all you've been able to create are long rectangular scarves with your single crochet, just adding this one stitch is going to allow you to create many different projects. You can create triangular shawls or put ruffles on your scarves. So let's learn this stitch and see what you can do with it. Okay, I'm going to show you how to increase when you're working in rows in single crochet. So I have a couple rows of just regular single crochet here. Now to increase is quite an easy thing to do, because all you're going to do is just work an extra single crochet in whatever stitch the pattern calls for. So I'm going to pretend that this pattern is telling me to increase on the first stitch of my row and the last stitch of my row. So I'm going to chain one for height, as I always do, and then to work my increase all I need to do is find my stitch, insert my hook, do a single crochet, and then instead of inserting my hook in my next stitch, which is right here, I'm going to go back into the stitch that I just did a single crochet in. Now sometimes your pattern will call this increasing, or INC is the abbreviation, or the pattern will say SC, or single crochet, 2 times in your next stitch. So if the pattern said chain 1, SC 2 times in your next stitch, that's all you're doing. You're taking your hook back into the same stitch and doing another single crochet. And that is going to increase your row by 1 stitch. Now because I'm doing an increase at the last stitch of my row also, that's going to do another stitch extra, which makes this row, instead of 10 single crochets, which it started with, it's going to end with 12. And we're going to count our V's at the end of the row so you can see how we have 12 stitches now instead of 10. So right now I'm just single crocheting across, and I come to my last stitch, and now I'm going to increase on that last stitch. So I insert my hook, and I do a regular single crochet, and then I go back into that same stitch. So it's very easy to see because you already worked into it, so the hole is quite big. You work right back into that same stitch, yarn over, pull up, and do the second single crochet. Now I'm going to count my V's, see that I have 12. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I did 2 extra stitches, and if I kept going, you would see that this would start to go out kind of at a 45-degree angle. And increasing can really do some interesting things to your project. So if you are a beginner and all you know how to do is single crochet, adding increases to your work can actually do quite a few different things. Let me show you some examples of what you can create, and also what happens if you put your increases at different parts of your project. So this increase, I started with 2 stitches at the very top, and I increased every row in the second to last stitch. So I did a single crochet, increased 2 times, went across my row, got to my last 2 stitches, my last 2 V's, I did 2 increases in this stitch, and then a single crochet in that stitch. So as you can see, it kind of created these little holes, kind of a little design, and it made a triangle. So I started with 2 and I just kept increasing every single row, and it made a very wide, obtuse, for you geometry fans, triangle. Now if I move the increases to the very last stitch like I did with this sample, you can see that the effect changes a little bit. See that the kind of the little hole that was over here is now moved to the end because I did my increases. You can see kind of the little fan that it creates from the increase. Still the same kind of triangle effect, a very wide triangle, you can make a shawl out of this. If all you knew how to do was single crochet and increase, you could start up here with your yarn, increase every row on the last stitch of both sides to create the triangle, and just keep going and going and going, and you're going to get a nice big triangle shawl out of that. Now I'm going to place my increases at the center of my work and see what happens. Same exact increases. I did 2 increases every single row, except I put them in the center, 2 center stitches on each row, and look at the effect that I got. Completely different. It almost creates a square. So you get quite a different effect. You could still do this as a shawl. It'll just give you kind of a rounded edge at the bottom. So this was every single row. When I got to my 2 middle stitches, I did 2 stitches in each one of them. So you can see how much different that is. Now if you're wanting to make a triangle and not make it so wide, all you have to do is increase every other row. So this is the exact same thing where I increased on the edges, but every other row I just did a row of normal single crochets. So I started with 2 stitches, increased and did 2 single crochets, increased to 4 stitches, did 4 single crochets, increased to 6 stitches, did 6 single crochets, and on. And this creates a much more like a isosceles triangle. As you work, it's going to be very tall and narrow. Another thing that you can do with your increases, create ruffles. So this is just a normal single crochet across, and then I did 2 single crochets in every single stitch down here, and then I just did a single crochet all the way across, and you can see it's almost like a rainbow shape if I let it lay the way that it wants to lay. But if it's a straight, say, scarf or shawl, it creates a ruffle. So you can see how it ruffles around because it's got 2 single crochets in every stitch across. I can put even more single crochets. This has 4 single crochets in every stitch, and you can see how wild my ruffle got. So I have like a super ruffle on this one. So you can create lots of different effects by just doing single crochet and increasing depending on where you want in your project. Try different swatches and see what you come up with. You can come up with some really interesting, fun things by just using those 2 stitches. So that is how you increase in single crochet.